Well, after much hype and anticipation, we finally get to see how Barry's life changed after his life-altering decision. Hey guys, Premiere for the season premiere of The Flash, Season 3, Episode 1, Flashpoint, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, mainly because of how much things were going to change. I mean, Barry literally changed the entire scope of the show, and just from that one decision, the possibilities really were endless, and I was so into what they were going to do with then changing things up, you know, reuniting his parents back together. They really had all the pieces in play, and I was really ready for this episode. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, as good as this episode was, I was a little bit let down, I'm not gonna lie. Now, don't get me wrong, this episode was not bad. I thought overall this was a very solid premiere. I thought there was some really great stuff in this episode, but I just felt that the tension and the sacrifice overall just really wasn't ever that high, and it's mainly because of the fact that Greg Berlanti and his team already revealed that this isn't going to last very long. I think that really lessened the impact of the episode for me. But anyways, let's just get into it, because I really did like a lot of the stuff they did in this episode. I just didn't love it overall, but let's just get into it. One of my biggest problems with the episode is the beginning. It just kind of starts out of nowhere. I mean, I was expecting it to start right off from when Barry killed, you know, from when Barry spared Nora. That's how I thought it was going to start. But no, that's not what we do. We see Barry, he's sitting in jitters, he's preparing to talk to Iris, and the monologue tells us that some things that happen are random and some happen because we planned them, and this is one of those things. And before he can approach her, the news mentions a villain called the Rival, who is terrorizing the city. The Flash can do nothing to stop him, and when Iris texts on her phone, Barry sneaks away at super speed, arriving just in time to see another Flash facing off against the Rival. Right away, this very much confused me. Barry, we see, still does have his speed, and I don't really know if I like that. I was kind of expecting more human Barry, but no, he still has a speed, and Barry, not in costume, simply watches as the speedsters square off. Rival spins around, throwing red lightning, and the Flash saves both Barry and a couple of cops from it. Rival gets away, and the new Flash is annoyed, but Barry tells him he'll get him next time, and I thought that was interesting to see overall, but I did like that scene. It's just, again, Barry's not the Flash in this episode, so not seeing him as a Flash and still having his speed felt just very bizarre, definitely, and I get that that's the point, but it didn't work as much as I wanted to. Back at Jitters, Barry steals Iris's wallet at super speed, brings it to her. Kind of a cute scene. I did like this scene overall. He tells her that she dropped it, and she barely recognized him. I mean, she first calls him Gary. I mean, that is how out of touch she really is with him. And I do like seeing this different relationship between these two, because we're so close to Iris and Barry, you know, being together and being on the same page and, you know, having the relationship that they do. So seeing them a lot more distant and Barry trying to pursue her, I thought was really well done. I really think they rushed it, though. I mean, they really could have taken their time with this and stretched it out a little bit more, but no, they really did rush this plot, and it didn't really have the impact I wanted. You know, she dropped it, she barely recognized him, leaves this conversation where he literally asks her out right then and there, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, you don't even know, she doesn't even know you in this universe, and it's obviously very awkward, but it ends up working, and the two are set for a date the next day. I mean, I get, obviously, that he wants to be with her, but didn't he tell her in the last episode that I will wait for you, that, you know, I'm going to wait till the time is right? They literally had that discussion at the end of Season 2. Why in the hell is he trying to pursue her in this episode? I have no idea. It just felt very, very out of character, and it really felt like the continuity did not matter in this episode. And again, I get that Barry's been living in this world for 3 months, but at the same time, he's still the same Barry. It's not like this is a changed Barry. He knows everything that he did, and the episode at this point, I was very confused. I was thinking, okay, maybe Barry doesn't remember, but we see he does remember. That whole part of the episode, the Barry and Iris stuff, just really did not work for me in the way the episode wanted to. It just really did not, you know, make a lot of sense. So at work, Barry catches up with Captain Mendez. Singe is no longer there. His supervisor who wants information on the Rival. Barry hasn't gotten anything, and quickly, Mendez realizes that Joe is missing, so Barry tries and fails to make an excuse for him, and again, Joe's a lot different in this episode, because Joe, of course, doesn't have Barry, they don't have that key relationship, and Barry finds himself standing outside an old warehouse and flashes back to the night he saved his mom, and then drag the reverse flash here, and inside, Eobard Thawne is trapped behind glass that stops his powers from working, we see. Now, this part of the episode, I really did like overall. I thought this whole stuff, everything was going on with Thawne and Barry, was overall very interesting. That, to me, is the strongest stuff of this episode. I thought what they did there was really cool. So the two argue with Thawne telling Barry that they're in danger, that the new timeline is already screwing with Barry, and soon it will take him down with him. So I like this tension between Thawne and Barry, because, as we know, Thawne's supposed to be dead, theoretically. You know, he should be dead, and, you know, obviously he's not, because Barry saved Nora, ergo, you know, Barry has no reason to go after Thawne, and the fact that they're both trapped, and they're both kind of, you know, at a disadvantage here, I thought overall was very interesting. I did like what they did there, and I thought that whole part of the episode was very interesting. It's just not the majority of what they focus on. We'll get into that, but later at his parents' house, Barry shows up to see the two of them alive and happy, and it is cool to see, obviously, his parents together, because it's something that I feel really is something worthwhile. I mean, the entire show has been, a big part of it has been Barry mourning about Nora, or recently mourning about Henry, and seeing both Nora and Henry together, you know, with Barry seemingly having no problems and having this perfect life, was strange to see, but I really did feel was very fulfilling. It's something that I feel we really, you know, do deserve, and especially after hearing so much of what Barry's gone through, I thought it very much paid off in this episode. So the next morning, Barry talks with his parents over breakfast. Nora offers Barry a rental apartment in the basement of the house she recently sold, but Barry changed the subject and tells them that he got a date with Iris. We find out that he's still living there, which is interesting, and basically, we can tell that Nora wants him to move out. You know, even though she loves him, she wants him to move out, and he tells him, oh, we got a date with Iris, and at work, Joe is missing again. Mendez is on the warpath, and Barry speeds to his apartment, and then after Joe's apartment, and then after unsuccessfully trying to wake him up by conventional means, he cleans him up and runs him to work at super speed, and Joe isn't particularly grateful for Barry's constantly covering for him with the captain, but then sees Iris walk in, assumes it's because of her that Barry is taking a sudden interest in him, and kind of seems to want them together, but we don't really know. Outside, Barry tells Iris that he feels like he knows her and Joe better than he really does, but she says she feels the same way around him, surprisingly. And the two of them share some sweet dialogue, but he starts losing his memories of his relation with Iris in the other world, and she notices him looking panicked. We don't know what's going on at this point, but throughout the episode, this keeps happening, where he's losing memories, and just then, the Flash and the Rival are having a fight across town. Police cars are swarming to help. Iris excuses herself, saying that there's something she has to do. Barry arrives on the scene just in time to see the Flash toss out of a window, land in a dumpster. He removes the unconscious hero's mask and recognize him as Wally, who, let me just say, I don't know if Kynan, I know that's his name, Kynan, I can't think of his last name, but I don't know if he took more acting lessons over the summer, but damn did he improve in this episode. I mean, I said it before, even though he was good in Season 2, he wasn't that great of an actor. I really did think he was not that great. I thought he was kind of miscasted, but I read an article that already says, like, he feels like he's more part of the show, and this episode definitely shows that. I mean, he just fits in so much better now, and it doesn't feel like he's standing out, like, he doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Kynan Lonsdale, that's his name. He really does seem like he did take acting lessons, like, he genuinely did get better as his character, and I really did like seeing this side of Wally. And I know it's not the Wally we're gonna see, in the season, but I really think that Kynan, you know, Lobsdale overall did a really good job in this episode, and I think overall we're going to see a much better Wally than we did last season. My problem with Wally last season was not necessarily the actor that, you know, the actor was more where they decided to go with him. I just don't think it was the most interesting direction, and then they possibly hinted at him being Kid Flash, and that is exactly what happens here. However, he doesn't want to be called that. He and Barry getting to know each other. Iris shows up surprised to see him. Barry plays it off that he figured out who Wally was because of his mad CSI skills, and the pair accept that. That part was funny. I did like seeing Barry having to cover up how he knew who these people were. Wally explains that back when he used to drive illegal cars, he was experimenting with a new nitro formula, and one night these chemicals mixed with a lightning bolt put him in a coma for 9 months and woke up as the Flash. So he is the Flash in this world, which I thought was cool to see. I like seeing a different Flash here, and Barry offers to help them taking down the Rival. Iris instead says that they need to find the only man who can help them, who is in fact Cisco. And this Cisco I absolutely loved. I mean, if there's any character that was the most entertaining this episode, I mean, Cisco is always entertaining, but this episode in particular, seeing this side of Cisco, Carlos Valdez is just so great in this. You know, you can tell he's having so much fun as this role. And this is the most interesting side of Cisco we've seen since, you know, Reverb. Reverb was interesting, but this is so much more fun. I really did love this. They head to his company, and Cisco is this ostentatious billionaire. He's got models hanging on his arms. I mean, he really is just very lucky in this world, and he seems a lot more happy, and he excuses himself from them, pulls Iris, Wally, and Barry aside, upset that they've come to him for help, that they told a stranger he's helped them in the past, and Barry defends himself by saying that he knows the kind of person that Cisco really is, and recounting to him a story that Cisco once told Barry about working all summer to pay Dante as bookmaker when he was a teenager. Cisco's amazed, asks how he knows about that, but Barry only tells him that they're meant to be friends and a team, and just then, he starts to lose memories of Cisco, and it seems like whenever he gets close to someone in this world, he starts to lose their memories, which I thought, again, was very interesting. Here's where I get to the problem with the episodes, that I think after this, everything went way too fast-paced. I mean, think of everything that happens after this. They just went full speed ahead with this, and I really think this would have benefited a lot more if they did it throughout different episodes and not just this one episode, because I really do feel that despite the fact that I thought overall this was interesting, I felt they went way too fast-paced with it. So he has to see the Reverse Flash. He tells Barry that the new reality is starting to override his original life. He says probably not happening to him because it's Barry's use of his powers that make him susceptible. And ironically, the trap Barry has him is in protecting Thawne's memories. And he tells Barry that soon enough, Barry won't even remember that he's the Flash, after which point the world will be permanent. So Barry obviously is scared, but at the same time, he's kind of like, oh, it's Thawne, so, I don't really know if he's actually telling the truth. But again, this really does make us worried. I think it did a very good job of setting up that Barry definitely is in danger of what he did, and that this definitely was not the best decision for him to make. So somehow Barry gets a hold of the Flash suit. This part completely confused me. How did he get the Flash suit? How did he reassemble the team so quickly? It just felt so convenient. It really did. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I get this was a one-off, but again, I don't think it should have been a one-off. I think it would have made more sense to have it not be a one-off. Have Barry be a human for an episode. We don't need to see him as a Flash here. And I felt they just did too much. And I get that at this point, they want to cater to the fans, who have certain things they need to see in episodes. But I really felt that they just would have benefited more if they just focused less, if they focused less on all the Flash stuff and more as Barry's, world. What is his life like when he's not the Flash? And Barry gets Iris and Wally into Cisco's lab at super speed, revealing his identity in the process. And Barry explains his entire backstory, which obviously nobody believes him except Iris. For some reason, Iris believes him. And that, again, I didn't buy into that. I could not figure out why Iris was believing him so much. I mean, she is as much a part of this world as anyone else, so why is she believing him? It's not like he was with her when he made this decision to, save his mother. If she was with him, that'd be a different story. But she wasn't. This Iris doesn't know Barry. They didn't have the relationship that they had. Why the hell does she believe him so easily? I don't get why she's buying into this. This really did not make sense to me. So Barry tells them that he wants to help them take down the rival. Cisco gets ready to leave, saying he's not interested, and Barry gets on a terminal computer. He finds Caitlin, brings her to the lab, and this was just weird. In the timeline, Caitlin's an ophthalmologist, and Wally and Cisco are starting to think that Barry's crazy, but Iris pulls Barry into a hallway, telling him that something that's been wrong in her mind started to feel right when she met Barry. Again, I just couldn't buy this. I thought this was kind of dumb. So they're getting into their conversation. Cisco and Caitlin figure out how to use the city's traffic cameras to track near sonic velocities. They find the rival's likely lair at a sawmill on the outskirts of town, and after a fight at super speed, Wally gets the better of the rival, who revealed himself as Edward Clariss, and he turns his back, though, and gets run through with a pipe for his trouble. The rival was kind of a corny villain, I will say that. He had, that voice that very much reminded me of Zoom. Zoom was fine, but it just kind of reminded me of Zoom. The rival tells Barry that if he can beat him in a fight, Clariss will let Barry take Wally to the hospital. So Barry and the rival fight, with Barry about to deliver the final blow. When he starts to forget memories of being the Flash, the rival takes advantage of Barry's momentary disorientation to put Barry back on his heels before he makes a pair of cyclones. And I thought this was interesting, seeing that the rival kind of got into Barry's, memory loss and used it as his weakness. I thought that was interesting that we saw that, because obviously the rival can tell that something's going on with Barry. He doesn't know to the extent, obviously, but he knows something is definitely going on, and I thought the way that he, got into that, and the way he kind of used that to weaken Barry, I thought overall was very interesting. So when Barry starts feeling like he can't beat the rival, Iris gives him this pep talk and tells him to be the Flash, and again, Barry just starts getting his Flash memories back, then runs the Cyclones out, comes barreling out at one at the rival, knocking him to the ground. At this point, I felt like we were just going way too fast, and I really felt like this could have been in like 3 episodes, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4. We did not need this all in one episode, and Barry turns check on Wally though. The rival tries to kill Barry, shot in the back by a newly arrived Joe, and Barry unmasks, bringing Joe to check on Wally. The three of them all make their way to Ramon Industries. Wally is not rapidly healing for some reason, is in a coma, and Barry realizes that the world has been paying for his happiness, that he needs to make things right. And Barry then heads home to see Henry and Nora, introduces them to Iris. He tells them that he just wanted to see them one more time, pushes through the confusion to tell them how grateful he is for the last few months. He tells them there's nothing to be afraid of and that he loves them both, and as he leaves their home, he starts to feel his memories of his childhood on Earth 1 slipping away, and Iris helps him walk through the pain to see the Reverse Flash, who makes Barry ask him to kill Nora, and Barry and Iris kiss, and she tells him that she'll see him soon. Then Barry and Thawne speed off together, and that was just weird. The fact that they kissed in that scene. Again, she barely knows him. These two have known each other for like a day. Why did she kiss him? How did she believe all this stuff? I just did not buy into it. It didn't really make sense to me. So in Barry's childhood home, the Flash stops Reverse Flash from killing Nora, only to have the other Reverse Flash show up and kill her anyway, and reality realigns with most of the major moments from the first 2 seasons flashing on screen before Thawne drops Barry off the West home, basically showing us that this entire episode was pointless. So, we basically see that this really didn't do anything, and Barry then heads inside. Barry and Joe are still having a drink and celebrating the defeat of Zoom. Barry asks where Iris is, and Joe storms out and says, obviously it's sad that Barry lost his father, but then when Barry asks where Iris is, Joe ends up storming out, and Barry's confused, and Wally reminds Barry that Joe and Iris don't talk, and Barry's left alone in front of the fireplace to wonder what he's done. Now this I can get behind. I'm like, alright, that is interesting. I really am interested in seeing where this is going to go with Iris, because clearly Barry has fucked up the timeline somehow. Even though he's back in his timeline, he has messed things up, and I don't really know how that all happened, because that's going to be very interesting. So that night, Edward Clariss of this world wakes up to a voice. He sees a message carved for him in the glass of his bedroom mirror, and it just says Alchemy, and I don't know if that's saying that he's going to be the villain this season, but that's kind of what it seems. But that is the way the episode ends. Very strange Premiere, but let's just get into this episode overall. Here's the thing, this episode I think was well done, and they did what they could to make these characters more interesting and give them different lives. I thought was good, but because this was only one episode, we really didn't get to do much with them. I mean, seeing Joe, not going to his job a lot, kind of on the couch and not wanting to work, that's a very interesting plot point. There's a lot you can do with that, but they did absolutely nothing with it. 2 scenes, I'm sorry, that's not enough. I mean, I get it, what they were trying to show, but I really didn't think they did enough with Joe. I felt like they could have done a lot more with him, and they really did not service him in this episode. The worst part was Iris. I don't understand how she was able to believe Barry all that time, and if that's really because of what Barry did, I don't know if that's that's why Iris and Joe don't talk more, because of what Barry ended up doing. I don't really know, but I think overall that is very interesting, how Barry did this and what the other after effects are going to be, because trust me, I'm sure that is not the only change. There's definitely going to be more stuff, and with Barry doing this, there's definitely going to be a lot more changes to the Flash, Arrow, and Legends Tomorrow, and Supergirl. One of them people have talked about that Supergirl might not be in a different universe. It might actually be in the same universe now, and that'd be very interesting if they did do that. It makes sense why they could do so many crossovers. But overall, I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. How did Iris and Joe not talking more, I thought was interesting to see. I'm interested in seeing where that whole thing is going to go. The problem with this episode is just, I thought it was way too rushed. I really feel that a lot of this episode would have serviced a lot more if they would have taken, 1 or 2 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, as opposed to 1 episode to tell the storyline. I mean, yes, obviously I understand that, the fans of the show at this point, they know what they want and they want to cater to them, but if you really want to do Flashpoint, do Flashpoint. I was really excited to see this play out and really excited to see how this was all going to go down, how different things would be without Barry. but unfortunately, we really didn't get into that. We got to see Barry. He was on, he was in this different world, and Iris didn't know him and everything, but quickly, no, Iris knows him, Cisco knows him, everyone suddenly knows him, he suddenly has his team back, and it just didn't feel like there was anything that different in this episode. I mean, sorry, but changing Cisco's look and making Wally Kid Flash is not enough to really get me into it. I really want to get into this episode, but sadly, I just wasn't, and it's quite disappointing because I really thought it was going to be a cool direction for the show to go, and don't get me wrong, I think we're going in a really cool direction for the rest of the season. I can't wait to see how this is all going to play out, with what Barry has now done, how this is all going to affect him, and also Thawne, he really does need to listen to Thawne's warning. I thought that by far is the most interesting stuff of the episode, the fact that Thawne was just trapped as Barry. I thought that was well done, and also this character of Edward Clariss. I don't know who Alchemy is, or if we're setting up this character, but overall I'm interested in seeing where his character is going to go. Overall, guys, thought this was a good premiere, not a great premiere. Just a little bit disappointing, I have to say. I didn't hate this premiere by any means. Don't think that. I didn't hate it. But it just wasn't as good, and I think it really was just a lot of missed potential, definitely. I think they really could have serviced a lot more if they did this to 2 or 3 instead of 1 episode. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I just, wasn't in a bad mood. I don't know. I really could not get into it like I wanted to. But that's my review. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next, which will be for the series premiere of No Tomorrow, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.